All right. So this is going to take a lot of writing on your part too. Before I go into the muscular system, I like to do a review over anatomy. Most of you have had anatomy, and that's fine, but it's not going to hurt you to have a refresh to just kind of get re-familiar with all of those terms. So, on page 2 of your notes, are you there? Okay, do you see where it's going to ask you some questions? Let me get there too. So you're going to fill these in. You will turn in these notes at the end of the unit. So the first thing, so it goes it goes through page 6, just because I added boxes and stuff like that. We're actually going to fill in all of this throughout this review. Some of it you're going to do on your own, and then we'll go over it. But it's just kind of refreshing you over anatomy. So first thing we got to talk about is this terminology. So directional terminology. We talked about it in health science. Some of you in health science did potato man surgery. Some of you all did that. Brody, I think you and Caitlin did that.
Yeah.
I don't know if we did it the first semester.
I don't think we did.
No, I don't think we did either. All right. So, okay. First thing we need to know is anatomical position. So when we talk about where something is or in what reference to what, we know that the person's in anatomical position. So that means that they're facing forward and their palms are out. Yes. Okay. Fundamental position, their palms are in. Easy so far. Now, remember that when we look at a diagram, what's special about when we look at an anatomical diagram?
It's opposite.
It's flipped, yeah. My right, when I look at the diagram, is actually left, and my left is actually the right. Okay, so when I look at something, it's flip-flopped. Some terms you need to know. Anatomy, physiology, homeostasis, and metabolism. So anatomy looks at how something is built in the body. Physiology looks at what does it do. Homeostasis, you should know that word. What's that mean? Balance in the body. So basically, if one system isn't working, then all the other ones are going to be affected, and I don't have homeostasis. I have to have homeostasis to be able to do what? Live. Yes, correct. Okay. Metabolism, physical and chemical changes in an organism. So anytime we have a chemical or a physical reaction in our body, that is called metabolism. Okay, let's start with these terms. First 2, or rather I should say 4, that we need to know. Inferior and superior. Okay? Superior is up. Inferior is down or below. So superior is above, inferior is below. This is at the point where you're going to fill in some things. You also will probably want to write down cephalad and caudal. Cephalad refers to the head. You probably learned in health science cranial. So cranial or cephalad refers to the head. And then caudal refers to the tail or the spine or below. It's kind of 2 other words for superior and inferior. Oh, Jacob, will you turn off the light? Okay, good?
Yeah.
All right. Superficial versus deep. That was not on your notes, but make sure that you do know it. Superficial and deep. So that's important for us because we're going to talk about muscular anatomy, and we're also going to talk about wounds. If something is superficial, it's toward the top, toward the surface. And if something is deep, then it is farther down from the top. So a really good example would be when we talk about muscles. The trapezius muscle, which is back here, is considered a superficial muscle because it's closer to the top. We could feel that one. However, we do have something called the rhomboids, which are deeper down below the trapezius that we can't feel. And those are considered a deep muscle. Make sense? All right. We have something called an axis of motion. I'm not worried that you know the three. Just know that the axis of motion is the point around each movement occurs. So we're going to talk about range of motion. We're going to talk about what plane and what direction a body or a limb would move in. And what's going to be very important is if we know axis of motion. In other words, where's the point from where that limb moves? I'm going to show you this just so you can kind of get more of an idea. Basically, what it's telling you is depending on what plane of motion you are moving into determines which axis you are moving in as well. So we'll get more into that later, but what's a cell? Thank you. Yes, a basic unit of life. So you learned from 6th grade on, cell is a building block of an organism, correct? Cells that join together for a similar purpose, those are called a tissue. And then tissues that join together for a similar purpose make up what? Organ. Good. And then organs that are together for a similar purpose make up what? A system. Okay. So that kind of shows you the progression. All right. So before we talk about tissues, let's look at your notes on page 2 and let's fill these in. So superior is above. Inferior is below. Now we have something called anterior or ventral. Anybody know? Front of the body. Okay. Anterior or ventral is the front of the body. So to make it even more confusing on us, we have sometimes we have two words for the same thing, basically. Why? I don't know, but we do. So posterior or dorsal is the back of our body. Now, we have an imaginary line right down the middle of our body. Imaginary line right down the middle. That is called the midline. If something mid, what does mid mean? Middle, okay? Just like mid, median, medial, all of those things mean middle. If something is close to this midline, it is called medial. If it's far from the midline, it is called lateral. So medial is middle, lateral is farther from the middle. Okay, proximal is close. Distal is far. So again, it depends on your point of reference. So medial and lateral are in reference to what? Medial and lateral describe where something is in reference to what? The midline. Proximal and distal, it really it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about where is something in reference to your shoulder, you know, it just depends on what your reference point is, okay? So superior is above, inferior below, anterior front, posterior dorsal, medial middle, lateral far from middle, proximal close, distal far. Okay? All right. So we talked about tissues. So you're going to actually be on page 3 now. So we're going to get a little bit more detailed into tissues because we need to know the difference between cartilage, hyaline cartilage, elastic tissue, collagen, all of that. Because when we talk about the muscular system, that's important to know. So, again, tissues are a group or mass of cells working together to perform a common goal. You'll see on your notes that you have 4 different types of tissues. And I've kind of broken it down into really the ones that I want you to know. So, we're going to talk about epithelial. We're going to talk about connective, muscle tissue and its types, and then some fibrous as well. So let's start with epithelial tissue. If you open up your mouth and that pink tissue all throughout your mouth, that's epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue, its function basically is that it covers surfaces inside and outside the body. So under epithelial tissue function, covers surfaces inside and outside the body. It is the main type of tissue in the body. Usually has not a whole lot of blood supply, but it does heal well. Rapid healing. Like if you cut your mouth, like it's going to heal within a few days, right? It's not going to be like a massive thing. So that's epithelial tissue. Locations in the body. What would you put there? What's it do? Right. It's the most abundant tissue in the body. It's found all throughout the body because it lines organs, it lines the body. So through body, however you want to put it. Okay, next one, connective tissue. Connective tissue I want you to think of as glue. Connective tissue connects objects together. Connects objects together. And if you look down on your notes, you see that we're going to talk about a few different types of connective tissue. Okay, so the first one, here's the first one. The first type of connective tissue we're going to talk about is it's collagen-like, okay? So the collagen-like tissue is strong, it's not elastic, it's not very stretchy, and those include our bones, ligaments, and tendons. So collagen-type tissue, bone, tendon, and ligaments. It's really, really important that you know the difference between a tendon and a ligament. Do you know the difference? I just love the conversation today. Okay, tendon connects the muscle to a bone. Ligament attaches a bone to bone. And a bone is a bone. I don't feel like I have to go any further with that one. So just to square back, epithelial tissue lines organs, connective tissue as a whole connects things together. We're talking about a collagen type of connective tissue, and our examples are tendons, ligaments, and bones. Remember, collagen type of tissue is very strong. Think about a bone, a tendon, and a ligament. Those are pretty strong pieces of tissue. Now, elastic connective tissue is not as strong, but it's what? It's elastic. Okay, elastic means it's stretchy. So, anybody ever watched the Incredibles? Okay, isn't there like an Elastigirl on there or something like that? I only just watched this movie like last year. Really cute movie, super cute. So what can she do? She can stretch way out, and then after she stretches and she's ready to come back in, she just comes back to normal size, right? So just think of it like a rubber band. You stretch it, you let go, and it goes back to normal size. So the more flexible something is, the less strong it is. That's the general rule that we're going to kind of go with, okay? Elastic type of tissue. Vocal cords. You're going to see that in vocal cords because they have to expand. So here's an example of a ligament and a tendon. All right, the other type we're going to talk about is adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is fat, okay? Adipose tissue is fat. It's spread all throughout the body. We all have to have some level of adipose tissue because it cushions. And adipose tissue also stores some vitamins, heat, and energy. So it's important that we have it. All right, let's talk about cartilage. So there's a difference in cartilage and bone. Up here in your ear, this is not bone. This is a cartilage. I can bend it. A lot of you get it pierced. Cartilage does not have blood supply, and it does not have nerves. Bone has a very abundant blood supply and nerves. Okay? There are 3 different types of cartilage. The one that we really want to know about is hyaline cartilage. So cartilage as a whole, its function, basically it's just a structure. Basically, where it's located on the ends of bones, in your ear, in the respiratory system. But on your notes, I want you to go to hyaline cartilage. This is the one that I really want to talk about. Hyaline cartilage covers the ends of the joint. Okay. That is typically the most common type of cartilage you're going to see at the ends of bones. So when we talk about osteoarthritis and hip replacement and knee replacement, and we talk about the cartilage that has degenerated over time, this is the cartilage we're referring to. So covers the end of a joint, used for padding. Can you think of some places that frequently cartilage degenerates on athletes? Knees, okay? You have your femur, and then you have your patella bone. At the end, of course, you have ligaments and tendons also attaching, but at the end of both of these bones, you have some hyaline cartilage here. That way it's not bone connected to bone grinding together. That cartilage is there as a shock absorber, okay? And when that cartilage wears off, that's when it starts to get painful and we start to grind down on the bone, which we'll talk about later. Okay, the last thing that we definitely want to talk about is a joint. So if you look here, these 2 bones right here, and then on the ends right here, what type of cartilage is this? Yep, the one we just talked about. And then a bone, so basically a joint is where a bone meets a bone. This red right here is actually the joint, and it's fluid filled. The fluid that most joints that we're going to talk about are filled with is called synovial fluid, and it basically further lubricates that joint and protects it. The joint itself, that sac, can become inflamed too. And we'll talk about that and what that means later as well. Bone tissue is hard. We know it has nerves and blood vessels, and we know that it's different from cartilage. And then the last type of tissue that we're going to talk about is muscle tissue. There are 3 types of muscle tissue. Smooth or visceral lines the body, lines organs in the body. Cardiac is in the heart. It's the middle layer of the heart. And then skeletal is that muscle tissue that attaches to bones to help move. And I think that's it as far as tissue, correct? Yes. All right, go to page 4 of your notes. All right, page 4 and 5, that's up to you, okay? You can work together from a distance, okay? You're going to research on page 4, you're going to research each of those organs that I have. You're going to tell me what body system they belong to, and you're going to tell me their basic function, okay? I don't want a novel, all right? I want just basic, what do they do, where are they, okay? And then you go to page 5, and I've given you the systems, and then you have functions. It's going to be probably pretty helpful if you, well, I don't know why I keep getting these, like, I don't even know what this is. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Notifications on this computer. So, on functions, you're going to write the function of each system down. Depending on how many lines there are, determines how many functions that system has. So if you look down at skeletal, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 main functions. And if you need help, I can help you. What you're going to do with a partner or by yourself or whoever, you're going to fill these in, okay? And this is going to take some time because as you fill it in, I want you to learn it. Because tomorrow we'll kind of review a little bit more. After that, you're going to take a picture of all of these pages. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to take a picture of them. And you're going to go to Canvas, and you're going to submit it. I want to tell you the assignment number because I can't remember. Yeah. So I put every grade in. Some of you have submitted stuff like this morning. I'll work on that. Assignment number 10. And I'll write that on the board. So after you do this, you're going to take a picture of it, upload it to assignment number 10. Those are your anatomy notes. Tomorrow, we're going to review. I feel like this is pretty basic stuff. So we're going to review tomorrow, and then we're going to have a quiz on this on Friday. Okay, I'm giving you an extra day to study. So I'll give you a study guide if you want to do that as well tomorrow. But we'll kind of move on. We'll start on the muscular system on Thursday, but you will quiz over this. It'll be like 25 questions on Friday. Okay? All right.